Hi guys, I'm student Dr. Thompson here with part 3 of my 3-part series on how to shadow a doctor. In part 1 I talked about what is shadowing, why it's important, and how to find good shadowing experiences. In part 2 I talked about what to wear, what to expect, and what to bring with you. Stick around right now, this is part 3 where I talk about how to get a time commitment to shadow the same doctor multiple times, how to get a strong letter of recommendation, and then thank you cards and records that you need to keep. Okay, so how to get a time commitment. It's great to shadow a doctor for a full day or a couple hours, but the types of doctors that are going to write you letters of recommendation are the types of doctors that you shadow for multiple times. So there's 3 things that are important to get a good time commitment from a doctor. First of all, be upfront. Talk about this need to have multiple times shadowing the doctor when you ask them to shadow. The last thing you want to do is ask them to shadow and then say, oh, and I would like to shadow you every day this next week, or something like that. Second, tell them or give them a reason why it's important that you shadow them for multiple times. Maybe you're doing related research. Maybe you've spoken to a very happy patient. Maybe you're particularly interested in their field and that's what you want to be when you grow up. Third, find a connection. Find a connection with that doctor so that you give them a reason to say yes. Why should you spend more time with them than the next kid? Maybe they're a family friend. Maybe you've heard them give a presentation, or maybe you've read their research, something like that. Okay, I would always practice a dialogue, and that's exactly what I've done here. I wrote it out. If I were you, I'd write it out and rehearse it, but my dialogue goes something like this. Hey, Dr. J, my mom is a patient of yours and absolutely loves you. I'm very interested in family doctors. In fact, I've shadowed several before. I'm actually looking for an opportunity to shadow the same family doctor multiple times, and I was wondering if you would allow me to shadow a few hours each week next semester. So, fine-tune that so they get the message that it's a few hours once a week for the entire semester or something like that. There's an example of a dialogue and how you can practice writing one out and fine-tuning it. But doctors that you shadow multiple times are doctors that will write you letters of recommendation. So how to get a good letter of recommendation? First, understand that there are 2 types of letters. There are personalized letters and there are generic letters. The generic ones are the kind where they just change the name at the top of a pre-existing letter with your name on it. Okay, so how to get a personalized, strong letter of recommendation? First, make sure you have a long, healthy history with that doctor. And by long, I don't mean years. I mean that you've shadowed them every day for a week, or that you've shadowed them multiple times throughout a semester. Make sure that you made a good impression on that doctor. You don't want to ask a doctor that wasn't very happy with you for a letter. And you want to have been punctual and very professional during your time there. Second, ask with confidence. Make sure that you keep eye contact when you're asking. Make sure that you've rehearsed this so you know exactly what you're going to say. And make sure you ask the words, strong letter of recommendation. You don't want just a letter of recommendation. You want it to be strong. And so before I go over my dialogue, the doctor, if you have had a good history with them and you ask them with confidence, most doctors are going to have a hard time saying no. In fact, I think the doctor's going to say yes. But just because the doctor says yes doesn't mean you have a letter yet. You've got to follow through. Once they say yes, give them a deadline of no longer than 1 month. The reason why is because after a month, they're going to forget the impression that you made on them. And then state that you're going to follow up with them in 3 weeks. You'll follow up with them, you'll call them a week before it's due to arrange a time to pick the letter up. And then third, make sure you call them, make sure you arrange a time to pick the letter up. I can't tell you, I think I've had 3 commitments to letters that never were written. So that just kind of shows you it's easy to get a yes compared to actually getting the letter, if that makes sense. Okay, so for example, if I were to practice and write out a dialogue, something I could say is, Dr. J, as you know, I'm applying to medical school this spring. Would you feel comfortable writing me a strong letter of recommendation about our time together? Yes. Oh, thank you so much. I know your letter is going to help me get into medical school. My pre-med office is actually bundling the letters, and they're asking for them in a month. Is it okay if I call you 3 weeks from now to arrange a time to pick it up? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. Great. And then what I would do is I would have prepared a copy of my resume or a personal packet about my information. And I would say, here's some information about me in case you didn't gather this while we were together. And then that gives a lot of stuff that the doctor can write about you. Okay? You want a doctor to write a letter about you and not to change the name on top of a sheet that was written about someone else. Trust me, I've seen that happen. I've seen doctors, I've been close to doctors who've just said, yeah, write their name on top of this, okay? Will you, Chris? Okay, last but not least, you're going to want to write a thank you card, obviously. Write a thank you card every time you shadow. Make sure it's very personal and not generic. And make sure you write a thank you card to any staff members that were helpful to you. Staff members talk. They talk to each other and talk to the doctor, and it kind of makes you look better. Keep records. Keep records of the name of the doctor, the name of the staff members, the dates that you shadowed them, and the impressions that you had. You're going to need that information. You'll need it for writing personal statements and for your application to medical school. Guys, I hope this three-part series on how to shadow a doctor has been helpful. Thanks for watching, and stick around for more great videos.